The Vivo X200 Pro excels at photos and videos alike, while continuing to deliver a mostly refined premium smartphone experience. Vivo's questionable software choices, along with a strange camera glare issue, keep it a niche pick. But if you want an innovative camera phone with amazing zoom skills, the Vivo X200 Pro is a great option for discerning photographers. The Vivo X100 Pro and X100 Ultra were two of my favorite camera phones released in 2024. Both phones offered plenty of premium bells and whistles too, such as fast wired or wireless charging, robust IP ratings, big batteries, and bright screens. But they were really all about the fantastic camera hardware, with the X100 Pro featuring a versatile 50-megapixel 4.3x periscope lens, while the X100 Ultra delivered a frankly ridiculous 200-megapixel 3.7x periscope camera. Unfortunately, the Ultra phone was limited to China. There's good news though, as Vivo has just launched the X200 Pro and it packs the same crazy telephoto camera. So, is this a contender for best camera phone once again? It's time to find out. Let's start with the most significant caveat regarding the X200 Pro's photography credentials that's already been doing the rounds. Upon the X200 Pro's Chinese launch in October, users quickly discovered that the primary camera was prone to lens flare issues. I really hoped the brand would be able to address this problem with global devices. Unfortunately, I was able to reproduce these lens flare or glare problems on my review unit. This issue seems to occur when you're shooting with the 1X camera at a somewhat perpendicular angle to the sun. A quick side-by-side with the X100 Ultra reveals that the older phone might show a little lens flare at most, but not to the same extent as the X200 Pro. The glare seen on the newer phone can be downright horrible, as you can see in the images. The good news is that this issue doesn't pop up often, while secondary cameras are unaffected. Nevertheless, it's definitely a problem you wouldn't expect from Vivo in light of the company's efforts with ZES to reduce lens flare. Ultimately, it's a flaw that you'll likely run into from time to time, but it's not a constant problem. That's still a disappointment, given the phone's hefty 1,299 pounds. A company executive previously acknowledged this problem, claiming that it was related to the primary camera's wide aperture and the type of coating used. Vivo's global representatives reiterated this explanation, adding that it was a common technical challenge. Here's the full statement.
Our technical analysis suggests two main reasons for this challenge. First, it's related to the f1.57 aperture, which is the largest aperture on the main camera of the smartphone. While it does improve the shooting performance in low-light environments, the larger aperture and increased light intake make the device more susceptible to external lens flare. Second, it's our coating technology. X200 Pro's coating excels at handling radial and pedal flares, ghosting from point light sources in night scenes. It also has industry-leading anti-flare capabilities in many outdoor scenarios with non-specific angle light sources. We are actively researching ways to optimize both of the above.
Vivo added that it was constantly making software optimization updates to address the flare phenomenon. And by the way, guys, the goal for this year is still the same. I'm working towards 1K subscribers. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button and be part of the journey. It also added a glare reduction tool to tackle this issue, although it doesn't always deliver a significantly better result if it detects the glare in the first place. That said, this tool, which requires an internet connection, can sometimes make a big difference, as you can see. Furthermore, Vivo said that it added a photo glare reduction toggle in the camera app's settings menu. Testing shows that the toggle doesn't require an internet connection. This seems to do a solid job of reducing glare, although it isn't always eliminated altogether. You'll also still see glare in the viewfinder before you snap a picture, so you should check the captured image to make sure it looks okay. Vivo is switching to a slightly smaller 50-megapixel main camera. The company was at pains to point out that this sensor was competitive with first-generation 1-inch cameras in photos and could deliver higher quality video capture. I was generally happy with the 1X snaps from this shooter, aside from the occasional glare issues in most conditions. You've got 3 different color profiles once again, but I'm glad to see the return of a few extra sliders to help dial in your image. Vivo's handset still tends to overprocess images, such as low-light snaps in particular. It's almost as if parts of the picture are snowy, like an analog TV. The 50-megapixel ultra-wide camera is a clear step below the primary shooter. That's largely due to significant distortion and a noticeably lower level of detail, particularly in mixed lighting. The phone also sports a landscape mode now, which effectively serves as a hub for various features like supermoon mode, night mode, perspective correction, panoramas, light painting, astrophotography, and more. That 200-megapixel 3.7x periscope camera is virtually identical to the X100 Ultra's telephoto shooter. That means a 13.5mm diagonal sensor paired with a relatively wide aperture of 2.67 which is slightly wider than the Pixel 9 Pro's 5x camera. Thankfully, image quality is more or less on par with the Ultrafone. I usually captured some detailed 3.7x images that are more or less consistent with the 1x shooter. Noise levels are generally kept in check, while pictures are mostly in line with the primary camera, save for some white balance and minor exposure differences. Either way, I have to admit that I'm once again spending more time with the telephoto camera than the main shooter. The X200 Pro also excels at 10x for the most part, delivering sharp shots with depth as opposed to the flat images seen on many other phones at this zoom range. Contrast and highlights are also generally kept in check at 10x, although there are some color and contrast differences at 15x and 20x, along with some chromatic aberration in some cases. I also found that detail could be a coin toss at 15x and 20x. Much like the X100 Pro and X100 Ultra, this periscope camera has plenty of tricks up its sleeve. My favorite feature is the macro focusing capability, allowing you to get a little closer to subjects compared to conventional periscope lenses. This enables macro shots from a distance, but also lets you take conventional shots without needing to step back to focus. Macro shots are as good as ever and feature a healthy level of detail, although the focus fall-off can be extreme at times. You can also shoot at a full 200 megapixel resolution if you'd like, giving you an ultra high-resolution image at 3.7x. The amount of retained detail can be very impressive, although you really need ideal lighting for this option. These 200 megapixel shots are still prone to blown highlights in some situations, ostensibly due to little or no multi-frame processing. The Vivo X200 Pro also retains the X100 Ultra stage mode, which is meant to capture optimized images of concerts and live gigs from a distance. But much like on the earlier phone, this mode tends to make subjects look like wax. This is particularly evident at 20x and higher, while the 10x shot is definitely more usable. NVIDIA's CES 2025 event made for a stiff challenge as we were in the last few rows of floor seats in an arena. But this was clearly too far away for Vivo's software to make a major difference, giving Jensen Huang a plastic jacket instead. I also took the phone to a Green Day and Offspring concert. I was able to get decent 10x images, but my nosebleed tickets meant that 20x shots were often akin to paintings. Much like the Ultra model, you can expect loads of video capture options here. There's 4K 120 FPS slow motion capture for both the 1x and 3.7x cameras, 4K 60 FPS Dolby Vision recording across all three lenses, a 4K cinematic portrait mode akin to iPhones, LOG video recording, and more. I'm also glad to see that Vivo has managed to tame, but admittedly not eliminate, the judder I noticed when panning on previous phones.